Hello Internet, welcome to Making Money. My name's Eric and this is your Daily Dollar, our financial segment where I give you one lesson every day to help you reach financial goals. We've been talking a lot about investing lately. In yesterday's video, we went over 12 types of investments that you as an investor can buy into for your portfolio. We dug a bit into each one, we gave a lot of information. It was a good overview of the different types of investments. Today, we're going to start digging into each one of these a little bit deeper to give you a little bit more information on each one. And specifically, today we're talking about bonds. So I mentioned in yesterday's video that when we talk about stocks, we tend to talk about stocks and bonds as kind of in the same breath. When we talk about investing, those come up very commonly, and they do tend to be two of the more common types of investments for retail investors. We also talked that they tend to be, or bonds tend to be, a safer alternative to stocks. I want to bring this up too. There has been history when it comes to stocks and bonds that you should have a certain percentage of bonds in your portfolio compared to stocks. And while I am no financial advisor, I am of the opinion that there is really no hard, fast rule on percentages of investments. Things change over time. It's going to be different for each investor based on your, financial history, your preferences. There's a ton that plays into, what percentage and what things you buy into. So just because you hear percentages thrown around, don't take that as, the golden rule. You have to follow it because it's going to be different for each person. So bonds, yes, safer than stocks overall. We also talked about that what basically bonds are their loans. Bond issuers, government organizations, corporations will issue out bonds to investors, and investors will buy bonds and basically lend their money to that organization. And in return, they get fixed income payments. They get interest back on that loan over time. And then when the bond hits its maturity date, they get their principal back. And that's how investors make money on bonds. Now, we talked as well that, there are government bonds, there's corporate bonds, and depending on what type of bond you have really depends on the level of risk. For instance, the US government, normally bond rates tend to be around 2 to 3%. Again, that's going to depend on, who it's issued by, in this case, the US government, and how long the loan is for, or how long the bond is for. You can have a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 30-year bond. Right now, we tend to be a little bit lower than that. We're just under 2% for most of the time periods. That, again, changes over time. So this is another reason why it's not really a hard, fast rule as to how much you should have. And again, 2 to 3%, depending on your investment type, may not be a large gain. But it does, again, tend to be safer. And specifically with US government bonds, they tend to be very safe. And the reason why is because they are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States of America. And the US government will likely not default on your loan. That bond will most likely get paid back to you. Now, as we work through these, that may not always be true, but US bonds tend to be safer because of that. They also tend to have a slightly lower percentage return. The next level of risk would be your state and local governments. Bonds issued by them still probably won't default, but slightly more risk than, say, a government bond. And then finally, at the very top or bottom, depending on which way you're talking about, highest risk would be your corporate bonds. And again, risk is a general statement when we're talking about bonds, because in general, bonds tend to be safer. But there is always the chance that a corporation could default on your bond and not pay you back. Normally this is because something went terribly wrong with that corporation. They might have gone bankrupt. So there is a level of risk in any type of investment. That's what makes investing. Bonds tend to be a bit on the less risky side, but again, even that is variable depending on, how long of a bond and who the issuer is. So something to think about adding to your portfolio. Definitely very interesting. I'm interested in hearing, do you guys hold any bonds? If so, what percentage have you been holding in your portfolio, especially the last couple of years here? I'd be interested in hearing that in the comments below. You can hit me up on Twitter, link in the description. If you guys are enjoying this series, feel free to subscribe. Always appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another lesson. All right, guys. See ya.